Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 260 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I'm Sarah.
I'm Rob.
How we doing, Rob?
You know what? It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's episode 260.
260.
We've done this 260 times.
260 times. We have missed, I think, one episode in
Yeah.
our 5 years of tenure.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I want to give a big shout-out real quick before we get rolling to everybody in the live chat. I see Knox in the Box, Hulavu. We got John, Magus of Thebes,
That's
joining
our...
us all the way from Greece.
Yeah. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey,
Thank
J
you for,
X is even here.
Thank you for burning the midnight oil to be with us.
Yes.
J X is here.
I don't know if it's no longer the midnight oil and now it's like the early waiting for the sun to rise.
Right. It's the middle of the night oil, and that oil is great olive oil.
It is extra virgin.
Yes.
Extra virgin at this point. Like double extra virgin, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're so glad to have everybody, as usual. And again, we got tons of great questions. I've been just copying them in. I didn't even get a chance to look at them.
Yeah.
So.
I think they were getting questions in even like as late as like 4 o'clock there or something like that. I saw there are a couple more in there. So thank you all for chucking questions at us. You know, we love answering those on the air.
Yep.
Of course, we don't have any gaming news in our own personal lives.
Not yet.
With the notable exception, I was telling you just before the opening rolled there that I've been kind of in a one-page rules kick lately.
Yep.
First off, I blame the Mad Elf.
100%.
Because he's a one-page rules zealot and has been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finally pulling out of my funk enough that I felt a little inspired to kind of like create, you know.
Agreed.
So I was like, well, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to actually like throw together a list and, see what models I've got and whatnot. So, it's a mini wargaming kick. It's not a role-playing kick. But
you guys will be doing the standard thing of it's a board game, and yet we're still going to role-play through it.
They're adjacent to each other. Exactly. I've already come up with a backstory for all my guys.
See, that's what I'm saying. Right there.
Exactly.
Right there.
Exactly.
That is proof that you can technically role-play with any mechanics.
That's as close to gaming as I've gotten, though. The wedding is coming up on the 18th, so we're just a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
We got our marriage license today downtown.
Yeah.
At the lightning fast speed of bureaucracy.
You got your swords just in case things don't work out.
We have our swords. Yes, Sean ordered swords from Japan. Our friend Stephanie showed me little swatches of nail art that she can do for me. Ironically enough, the nail art that I want her to do matches a miniature that I painted for Knox in the Box's roommate for her elven wizard.
Yep.
Almost exclusively, and I actually sent her the picture of the mini, and I was like, see the cloak? Can we do this on my nail?
And she did.
Yeah, because it's the wedding colors and it's the cherry blossoms.
Yep. It's solid. It's solid.
It's all come around, full circle.
Yep. It's all coming up, Sarah.
Everything's coming up, Sarah.
So tonight, we kind of... our last 2 episodes, we decided that we weren't going to do research.
We're phoning it in. We're coasting through the end.
Well, at the same time, we've got some. I guess, as much as I didn't expect it to be, I kind of feel that both of these episodes are retrospects because they're us looking at what we've learned, what it's inspired us to do, what changed in our minds. So tonight we're talking about our future games. Thoughts that we've had, theme ideas, systems and mechanics we're interested in. We've kind of dipped into that in a couple other shows near the end where it was just a kind of an afterthought discussion that we were having. And this is where we're going to take a little deeper dive into some of those choices. And you have a lot more on your list than I do, I would say. Yeah. But I think I'm more committed to my first one. It's gonna happen here shortly because you still have stuff to finish.
Yeah, I've got. First off, my Savage Worlds campaign, my Elder Scrolls game to finish. I've got a whole section of that to finish off. But also, my list is a little longer because I kind of went these are the ones that I definitely want to do. They're at the top of the list. But then there's a handful under it that are if we get around to it, that could be cool.
Sure. Do you want to bounce back and forth on these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be great.
All right. So do you want to kick this off with the one you've got here on the top of your list?
Yeah. All right. So probably top on my list. It's either going to be this one or the other one that's top on my list here is Star Trek Adventures. So I am a lifelong Trekkie. I grew up on Star Trek.
You did.
And so I as a longtime fan of it, I'm super inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
I really dig like the themes of the show and stuff like that. And I think there's the greatest thing about Star Trek for me is that it leaves a lot of room in the universe to tell your own stories. A lot of IPs, like take Lord of the Rings for instance. Like I feel like if you're not in the Fellowship of the Ring, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like there isn't a lot of movers and shakers in Lord of the Rings that aren't doing the one important thing that wins the war.
I mean, I agree with that statement.
Yeah, but Star Trek is kind of the exact opposite, though. There's interesting things happening all over the place because there's stuff constantly going on with the Klingons and the Romulans and the Cardassians and exploration going out on the Delta Quadrant, and there's room everywhere for adventure. And I think it would be really great to just kind of, almost like Lower Decks, just invent my own starship. Put a bunch of people on it, and then just shove it out into space and see what happens.
Yep. Yep. Give it a push and let it drift.
Yeah, exactly. And there's plenty of room in the timeline as well, because like you've got the original series, all the way up to modern era. Like beyond Deep Space Nine and all that jazz. I would prefer to avoid time travel shenanigans, but
they always get into it.
They always get into it. There's so much so that it's become canon that they just have like an agency that deals with time travelers now.
Yeah, and we've looked at the rules, and there's now some new stuff coming out.
Yeah, second edition has been announced. I did a little searching around. I wasn't able to find a release window for it. But at least Modifius has announced that second edition will be coming out soon. Apparently, they are kind of combining a lot of the books into one. So, first edition's Star Trek Adventures was very much focused on Starfleet, and then there was like an expansion for Klingon Empire or original series, or there was even a Lower Decks expansion and stuff like that. But I guess they're kind of making it a little more like Star Trek universe agnostic. So straight out of that book, you could do Klingon Empire, or you could do Romulans, or you could do whoever you want. You
can do it all.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, by the time I get around to actually running this game, it'll probably be out.
Oh, without a doubt, at some level.
Right. I'm kind of hoping that a lot of the modules and stuff that'll still be, because there's an absolute ton of supplemental material for it.
Oh, yeah.
Between modules and expansion books and, things like that.
A lot of inspiration.
Lots of inspiration. I would say probably the biggest challenge I foresee with this, though, is with Star Trek, I feel like I might be getting in my own way about it because I do feel so strongly about it as a fan.
Do you think you'll run the same problem that I have with 7th Sea?
Which is, oh my god, I understand all of this content, and now I'm paralyzed with choice because I know there are a billion plot hooks sitting in front of me. Yeah, a little like that.
And
if I choose one, I'm going to be disappointed I didn't choose the other.
Well, not only that, but you've also got the fact that you know all the minutia, and you want to pour that out of you.
Yeah,
and it's too much. It's not your story; it's their story.
I come close to that with Elder Scrolls, honestly.
You do, but you've been doing a pretty good job of pulling that back. And a lot of the group does know Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, that's true.
So that makes it not to say that a chunk of our group is not a bunch of Trekkies.
That's also true. Yeah.
So,
but I feel like I'm narrowed down to two options here, and one that is create my own unique Star Trek story myself, or run one of the established modules, which, like I said, there are tons of them out there. If I create my own story, I feel like this is a challenge because, to me, I understand that Star Trek is a deeply progressive universe, in a very real way, and it's very much like, we use that joke, this is the future liberals want. It kind of is the future liberals want, and it's a lot of the plot lines are not about spacemen in the future. They're about us now, here, today, using spacemen in the future as a metaphor for it, to explore that complex topic in a way that we can digest and understand and examine. And I feel like if I don't do that with my own Star Trek story, like I've failed to tell a Star Trek story. And the weight of make your story meaningful to say something about humankind is astronomical. And it stresses me out just thinking about it.
I understand that, because at the same time, when I look at things like 7C, I want it to be grand.
Yeah.
I want it to be political. I want it to be dramatic. I want it to have all of the things that we see within those moments. So I get that. Like, I get that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other option then is just to run a module. And I think that's likewise another. It's a different challenge, but I think it is just as equally challenging for me. Simply because I don't usually run modules. Usually, I'm very much the person who cracks the book open and goes, "Oh, I have 7 plot lines in mind already," you know. And so having somebody else dictate my plot to me is difficult. And also, I personally feel like modules are, and I know you hate this word, I know we all hate this word, but modules feel railroady, but simply because they're kind of pre-scripted.
I think that's the misnomer. Like, I want to have a longer discussion with you about that particularly.
I'm sure I'm wrong about it.
I don't think you're wrong. I think for the most part you're right. But I also think that there is multiple layers of understanding within modules, and some are written well and some are written poorly. Not to say that they don't have the content or the accessibility, but the fact that instead of just laying out options, they're to be absorbed in their totality, and they have to move in a certain way. And I think that is the misnomer of a module. I think that's where the module fails, is when the module says, then step 2 is... And that can't be a module then, because at that point, all you're doing is moving them along a dotted line.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Some groups love that, no different than a dungeon is a series of rooms, and you don't finish the dungeon until you finish the dungeon.
True.
You know, but your players could walk out at any time, technically.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Then that's the ideal point of accessibility, or not accessibility, but player agency. But a module literally breadcrumbs, in most ways, what the possibilities are and what the possible outcomes are.
Yeah, I suppose I have to, trust the people who've written the modules to have written them well enough that allow for, like, these are the most potential outcomes. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do this.
Right, so that someone who is reading it who may not be able to see all of it, as a storyteller, can go... Okay, I feel comfortable with what I could do next based upon what they've done.
Sure.
You know, there's going to be some variation in there, but I can flip to page 72 of the Choose Your Own Adventure book and have a rough idea of what needs to happen next.
Yeah, exactly. And and honestly, pursuant to this, like, the whole reason I think you and I have had some pretty long discussions about what our future games look like and why we're making these decisions is that we do want to challenge ourselves.
I think,
you flat out told me, like, stop playing Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
Like, not because it's a bad game, but
not
because it's too good of a game, and you will do nothing but Savage Worlds if you don't get yourself out of that box.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Deliberately, yes. Yes.
And so, to continue to challenge myself, especially after the show is done, I never really have run modules, so maybe this is my opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and I'd almost say run something in a much lighter system. Just to, like... There's several we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
right. So what do you got? What do you got on your plate?
Well, I'm going to start with the one that I know I'm doing right off the bat.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I'm doing Tiny D6 Tiny Taverns. I've talked about it. We went over it, so I'm not going to go in heavy detail, but I'm going to talk a little bit about why. It's been in my head for more than 6 months, probably closer to 10.
I remember you talking about it for a while, yeah.
Yeah, and it's because it is such a break for me to do something that is not campaign, not adventure, not module, that's literally slice of life.
Yeah, it's not some grand save the world conspiracies within conspiracies.
Yeah, or just a lot of open option and intriguing people, right? This is just a hyper-focused set of circumstances, and then also limiting it to just maybe 4 sessions. Mm-hmm. A session 0 starter session that kind of gets people into the mechanics and everything and gets them understanding what the world is around them, which is, again, exceptionally small. Like, they may not even know there are mountains because they can't see them because they're inside the town, kind of a thing. And then go through 3 scenarios. That's it. Like, that's simple. They're probably never even going to leave the site of the tavern.
Right.
Or whatever it is that they make.
Yeah.
So, in that... It's stuff that I've thought about because it is such a different and simple mechanic set that I'm not having to push anything past my players. I can literally give them one rule set and say, this is it. This is what you're going to be working with. I don't have to tell them about special combat or anything else. It's, are you rolling? Yes. It's 2d6.
Yep.
Oh, do you have a problem? It's 1d6.
Yeah.
Oh, is it awesome? It's 3d6.
It's 3d6, yeah.
There we go. We're done. We're literally done. That's the game. That is... And everything else in the book screams that, so it's not like I can even make a real mistake on that. There's assistance to that, but it's great. But I don't even think that a lot of that's necessary. I just want to keep it super simple, super short, so that I don't have to let my brain run into the complications. Mm-hmm. Like, if I literally force myself that it can't be bigger than the town, and it can't be more this many NPCs, right? Because if I do, my players won't know any, like, they'll just lose track of things.
Yeah.
And I follow the sitcom guide of there's one problem, there's usually 1 or 2 complications to that problem, and then there's just people.
And a laugh track.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's the laugh track and the sigh and the awes. That's it. That is literally it.
Yep.
And that's hard for me.
Tiny Taverns is filmed before a live studio audience.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I'm going to almost have to figure out how to do that. Because, like, even in just coming up with this, I was already trying to figure out how to complicate it. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, oh, I should do pre-generated characters. Oh, I could give them special abilities, and that's what makes them unique about it. Like a Miss Peregrine's home for, peculiar children kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you looked at me and you said, can you just play with the damn rules?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yes. I was like, oh, God, okay.
No!
Here he goes. He's like, I'm going to run something simple, but I'm going to complicate the hell out of it. And I'm like, Rob.
Yeah. No. You're right.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, those are my challenges, because I can do adventures, I can do campaigns, I can see so many points forward. I can make it dramatic. I need to scale all of that back and just be reactive.
Yeah.
Like, reactionary to my players.
Yeah.
That's something I can do, but not on the constant.
And I think that's something that, like, your slice of life sort of thing excels at, where you can just kind of chuck a complication into the room and just, like a live hand grenade, and just watch everybody react to it, and then it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You just watch the hijinks unfold, and everybody laughs about it, and then we go home at the end of the day. I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. I've already come up with my character for it.
Oh, you did. You already did.
Yeah, it was an old character I dusted off that I used to play online. It was a feral pixie named Flax, and you really liked the idea, so
yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it works out perfectly.
I think we're gonna have a great time with it.
All right, what's your next?
All right, so I don't know if you guys remember way back, we did a system spotlight for Aeon, or for Adventure Tales of the Aeon Society.
Yes,
and the second edition of it, I just got the book. In fact, last system spotlight, we were going to do that, but we ended up doing Eureka instead.
We gave them a spot. Yep.
But we were going to do the system spotlight for the new adventure book. And
do you like it?
What's that?
Do you like it?
I
Have you not
Dead
cracked
honest,
it yet?
I haven't even cracked it open yet.
Good for you.
I've been so overwhelmed with other things.
Good for you.
I haven't had it to stuff an entire new game system into my head.
Yeah. I'm also going to flat out say don't do that one.
What?
As your next one.
The new one?
Why? Don't do. Because you've already done Adventure.
Okay, here's the thing.
I'm trying to get you out of your box.
No, here's the thing, though. No. Okay, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
First off, I did 3 sessions of Adventure. Maybe only 2.
I
think I only did like 2.
You did 3.
Did I do 3?
I have the book upstairs with the notes in it.
Okay, I did 3 sessions.
You got 3. Yeah.
3 sessions does not a campaign make. Okay. You and I know that rule. It's 4 sessions or nothing. All right.
True.
That game died in its infancy.
So then you get the rights to do it again.
So when will my adventure game return from the war? Well, as it turns out, maybe right after I get my Elder Scrolls game done. Because here's the thing: most of you who have played in that game have been spending the last decade begging me to bring it back.
Yeah, we did.
Straight up, our friend Krista named themselves Elamay online after their adventure character, Elamay Hawkins, the Barnstormer.
Yes.
Every single one of your characters was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I was super enthusiastic about running it. I was having a lot of fun with it, but I was also transitioning at the time.
Yeah. Challenge.
And I was in a very bad place mentally. I was in an unstable place socially, and my housing situation was also changing and stuff like that. So I had a lot of things going on, and I had to drop the game, obviously, for some pretty big obvious reasons.
Obviously.
But yeah, we never really got back to it. So I feel like the game that so many of my friends have been going, when are you going to run this again?
Right.
I'm waiting with bated breath. I am
Sure.
salivating for adventure.
Yeah.
Please run it for me. I feel like if I don't put that on the top of the list, you know...
That's fair. I suppose that's fair. I suppose that's fair.
Okay. You give your fans what they want, right?
I mean, technically.
And, I mean, I've learned a few
If
things.
we did that, we would still be doing the podcast. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair.
But, anyway... so, I guess one of the challenges I've got kind of before me is, do I use the old rules or the new rules?
No. No.
Well, okay, so, I've got some thoughts on that, though.
Okay.
The old rules, I already know them. I love them. And it's not, I have a PDF of it, like, I could distribute that, and I know a couple of my players actually have the book as well. Like, I know the Mad Elf he's just ready. He went out and bought the book as soon as he heard about the game. Yeah, in fact, he's in the live chat right now. He says, I had a character ready to go, then I moved out of the country.
It's true, he did.
It was that long ago.
Yeah.
He's been to Jamaica and back.
Well, Isla Dominica.
Oh, okay, yeah, but anyway.
Same difference, and as far as work
he's been to the islands and back, you know. But, okay, so... There's a lot more, I suppose, infrastructure, you know, already laid down for the old rules. New rules, I would have to learn about the new updates. I'm also the only one who has the books that I'm aware of.
Yes.
So I would have to see I would have to see about that. And also, like, it's kind of it's written weirdly in that it is kind of an expansion for the Trinity Continuum book. They kind of condensed it all into like the Aeon verse and released that core book.
Oh, okay.
And then Adventure is an expansion for that.
Interesting.
So it's spread across multiple books now, and I'm not really sure where it sits. I'm comfortable with where the old rules sit because it's a self-contained system. As I haven't really looked into the new Adventure, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you it takes 2 books to run it.
Okay.
So I don't know. Got some.
You got some time to think about it.
Yeah, I definitely got time to think about that. Now, that said, as far as the setting goes, though, like once I decide the rule system, I am good with running the game because like I'm very inspired by the setting. I love the system in general. It doesn't look like they changed much about how the system works. It's still a D10 dice pool system, essentially based on the old White Wolf stuff. And I love that it's a setting where, like, naming a mad scientist character Dr. Gene Splicer
it just
is
fits
just
so well.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Your Your wife named her character Gracie Demure.
Yeah.
I'm 10 of 10. I have no notes.
Yeah.
This is the setting you get to do stuff like that in.
Yeah.
And it fits perfectly, and it's designed to be so over the top like that.
Yeah.
So, I know I can run the game. I just need to know which rule set I'm using. Your turn.
Yeah, I gotta look down my list here for a second. All right. I love a good pirate game.
Yes, you do.
My problem that I have that I want to run a pirate game, and I have written modules for what I want it to be as an idea, and rewritten them, and rewritten them, and rewritten them, and rewritten them multiple times, to the point where I got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just set all that stuff off to the side because I realized that I needed to stop doing that. I needed to stop coming up with the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm caught in this idea that either I'm going to do 7th Sea in a different engine.
Okay.
Basically, I want that setting, but I don't want it in the European theater that everyone's comfortable with.
Yeah, sure.
This is going to happen in the mists of the 7th Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the book says in the first edition that those who traveled through the mists were either lost forever or their ships came out empty. No people on the decks. Like, they'd go into the mist, and then minutes later they would be coming about-faced out of another portion of the mist, not far from where they were, with no one on the decks.
Ooh, spoopy.
Yeah, so that was the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to play with the idea that this put them somewhere else, like an island area.
Okay.
You know, transported them however you want to really call that, but effectively there is this enclave of islands, you know, similar to something like the Jamaican islands, and that area, and it is where all of these different explorer groups and naval ships and things like that have gone. Mm-hmm. There are pirates there, there are explorers, there are some militaries, things, you know, trying to hold on to some level of, I guess, reality.
Okay.
In a locked in area where no one's been able to get out of it.
Right.
But they're all trying to figure out how. And this area is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all this kind of crazy lore in my head, and then I picked up Pirate Borg. And freaking started looking through how they had their stuff set up. And again, Pirate Borg does a great job of creating this kind of odd lore and this darkness. And I was like, I am totally jacking some of this.
Yeah.
Because it is good. And so I was building up this idea and theme that fit in with it, and I took kind of a step back and said, okay, I'm going to make a map.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have specific things that I'm going to have art for, but I'm not going to explain them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to have my players help me create what they find.
Good.
And what's there. So I'm going to kind of throw something to Powered by the Apocalypse in the sense of, like, my players will make the world.
Uh-huh.
Because they know, most of my players who know 7th Sea know 7th Sea. They know how
sure.
that all works.
Sure.
So what would that look like to a bunch of castaways? And I don't mean like 50 or 60 people. I'm talking ships worth of people, actual body counts.
Right,
you know,
right.
When a galleon leaves, you're talking several hundred strong.
300, 400?
So even if 200 of those guys made it to an island and 150 survived, that's a lot of people from a Spanish galleon that are now trying to live there. Now imagine there are, like, I don't know, 20 to 25 ships that have made it of different sizes. That's a decent number of people. Not enough to make, like, giant settlements.
Yeah.
But enough that, like, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and there's definitely some variety of character that you see there, and different subcultures would pop up.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So
you might end up with little things like the Creole culture, you know, which is kind of that, like, mainland American, but also very French, you know, sort of cultures that come in.
You know, the military groups that stuck to their rules.
Yeah.
You know, and it has for them. What is time? What is time in this place? Mm-hmm. Like, do people just show up randomly? Did a bunch of them all show up simultaneously, even though they came through the mist at different times? Who knows?
I don't know.
Like, I haven't made those decisions yet.
Yeah.
Do supplies just show up as well? You know, different things. So all of that is going to help be in that character. But the choice was then, do I do it in Pirate Borg or do I do it in Savage Worlds and make Savage Seas?
Yeah, I mean, you could go either way with it, really.
Right, and it all comes down to, I really don't want it to get so crunchy that my players get lost in the mechanics. Mm-hmm. I want that to be as simplified as possible. So if I did it in Savage World, I would very much slim down the rule set.
Yeah, sure.
To just what is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But with like Pirate Borg, okay, like it's already streamlined. Yeah. There's really not much.
I'll tell you this much. I was on Reddit the other day, and somebody asked the question in r/RPG of like, I'm running a pirate theme game. What system should I use? And I smugly clicked on it, going, I'm going to play the see how long it takes you to mention 7th Sea, game. I clicked on it, and it was like, I kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and people were like, Pirate Borg, definitely Pirate Borg. Oh my God, play Pirate Borg. You've got to play Pirate Borg. It's beautiful.
Yep.
And it took me a while of scrolling to hit someone going, 7th Sea has kind of a piratey feel to it.
Kind of. That's funny as hell.
Yeah, I mean, like, the community rallied behind this book right here.
Oh, no, without a doubt. It's beautiful.
I think it's a beautiful book. I like the idea of Merc Borg, and especially if you are looking for a slimmed down system.
Oh, yeah.
You piggyback a pirate system off of Merc Borg's foundation. Mm-hmm. I think you're already batting 1,000 there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's well on its way. It's just a matter of how much do I lose of 7th Sea, right? How much do I shave off of it? And I think I can shave quite a bit.
Yeah, because, I mean, the thing is if you're making your own little island archipelago with their own unique cultures cobbled together out of lost 7th Sea cultures,
mm-hmm.
then it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, none of our prior knowledge of 7th Sea's world applies.
Well, I mean, some of it does in the building of it, of how it all came together, but I'm talking more to the fact of, like, the blooding and power sets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have any of that? Your sailors, your merchantmen, like, you may not even be part of those bloodlines. You're lesser people, effectively.
Well, I mean, on top of that, like, who's to say that on the other side of the mists, things don't work differently?
100% agreed.
Right. So, like, you could literally do anything with it.
Right. Yeah.
It does not matter.
Yeah.
You can say this is part of the 7th Sea universe, and then just use the lore straight out of Pirate Borg, and we'll be like, why is this different? Because you're on the other side of the mists. Nobody can explain why it's different, but it works this way here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's literally it, yeah.
And all your players will accept that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think the biggest challenges that I have with it is that 7th Sea as my character, like, players have all known it, is the characters are very dramatic. They're stepping into danger as heroes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think both Merc Borg does it way more, but I even think Savage World has a very dangerous edge to it, and it doesn't inherently feel like it should be heroic. It feels like it should be a little pragmatic and careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ostensibly, Merc Borg is an OSR game.
Right, right.
It's a modern OSR, but it's an OSR.
And I think that's the other part of it is that, do I want to lean into that and let my characters know that, like, it is kind of a cruel world of death, and being bold will get you killed,
mm-hmm.
right? And so there might just, your character may die, and there's a new recruit for your ship who just came up on the shore, kind of a thing.
I'll be dead honest with you, we usually don't deal with character death.
We don't.
Honestly. So, like, having a game where things are maybe a little more lethal and maybe you need to watch where you step maybe that's a good thing,
Yeah, I don't know how well I will transition in my mind frame going from Captain America to Civil War.
Right.
Like, that transition.
Uh-huh.
And the theme transitions there, and I think it's going to be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, back on you.
All right, back on me. All right, so we hit my two major ones that are on the top of my stack.
All right.
So working on my kind of lesser stack, my little sideboard here,
Sure.
I was thinking about Star Wars.
You've talked about it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. And so we're already jumping into, like, what is the challenge of this system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
Mm-mm.
I think most of the canon, hot take, most of the canon is pretty awful. people don't like the prequels. People don't like the new movies. That is 6 out of the 9 movies people generally don't like. And the supplementary shows and movies and stuff like that, like Rogue One was pretty good, but like Solo, pretty hit and miss.
Right. Mandalorian
solid. Was good, season 1, and then season 2 and 3 happened, so like, I Star Wars I find it really difficult to get on board with because so much of it is not good. And it's not that the universe isn't good. It's that the writing isn't good. They tend towards too much spectacle and not enough substance, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay.
Or the substance is buried within content and you have to know things to get to the substance.
Right. Or then they just start in with the fan service of, look, see, it's that character
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are they doing here? It makes no sense in the story, but cool that they showed up. Thanks for the cameo, buddy.
Yeah.
So, all right, I know Overwatch is going to be angrily typing at me right now.
Not necessarily. I think he agrees with certain aspects of that.
Okay, fair enough. But again, also my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so you're thinking now, okay, so you just spent the first 3 minutes of this, dissing the property. Why do you want to now run a game in this hot mess of a setting?
Sure.
Well, it's because I want to tell a good story for once. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously, I do have an idea of what I'm doing. I do not have an idea of what I'm doing. Please send help.
Fair enough.
All right. So actually, this is one of those systems where, or one of those ones where I'm kind of enticed by the setting, or by the system, I should say. We've done a few Fantasy Flight games as system spotlights.
Yes.
We did Legend of the Five Rings. We did Star Wars, Fantasy Flight Star Wars.
Which I particularly liked.
Yeah, and you got to play the Fantasy Flight Star Wars at Gen Con, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And I rather liked the way it was ran.
Huluvu's in the live chat saying, whatever you do not play Star Wars 5th edition. It needs a good editor.
First off, the moment that you put 5e in there, I am concerned.
Yeah. You can't pay me money enough to run a 5e game at this point.
No.
Anyways, I've been very intrigued by Fantasy Flight's unique dice systems and how they create very multi-dimensional outcomes. Where you could have some failures, but an opportunity, but a tragedy. Sort of cool things like that. And I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't hate Star Wars. I'm just not a huge fan of it. So what would I tell for a story? And one of the things that came to mind is that after the attack on Hoth at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, the entire Rebel fleet just pisses off into the galaxy somewhere, and we follow Luke's X-wing as it departs from that fleet.
Yes.
What are they doing?
What does the rest of the fleet do?
Right.
Yeah.
Did one of them get scattered and lost maybe somewhere? They jumped to the wrong place?
Jumps happen. Bad jumps happen.
Something malfunctioned because they took an ion blast right as they were engaging their drive. Maybe they ended up someplace unintended, and their job is now to figure their stuff out and get back to the Rebel fleet.
Sure.
And I thought that might make a nice little short story of, okay, we're alone. We're in the wilderness somewhere. We don't know. Maybe we have to set down on a strange planet for repairs. There's complications that happen there. Okay, we've repaired the ship. Now we get back to the Rebel coordinates, and boom, we're good.
Yeah.
End of campaign.
Sounds great.
But I think it would be a challenge for me. Obviously, I'd have to learn the system. I would have to figure out what makes a good Star Wars story tick.
Yeah. What's the hot points of a Star Wars of a good Star Wars story?
Exactly. And, tell a nice, succinct little adventure of these stranded rebels trying to get back to their fleet.
No, I like it. I like it. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So, that's on my list.
Okay. Well played. All right. We have a common one, and I'll hold that one off.
Oh, we have two common ones, actually. I saw your list.
Do we have a two common? We do have two common ones. All right, well, let's start talking about the common ones there. I think we can bounce back and forth on this. So, I think we both like Brindlewood Bay.
We both do, yes.
Now, it's in my lesser list only because I think it's something I could throw in. And the reason why is I like the way it handles the mechanics of mystery. And and just the vision of what it is. It's funny to say it, but when I look at Brindlewood Bay, I see Honey Heist kind of game. I don't see it being that deep of a game. I see being able to play it at a lighter level, not Honey Heist. Honey Heist is very light.
Yeah. I was going to say I don't see it at Honey Heist level, but I don't see it as an ultra super serious game.
This isn't something where I want my players to create characters and take hours and blah blah blah. I want this to be like, give me your concept. Let's put some stuff on the table and we're going.
Right. I want old lady bickering.
Right.
Over, I want angry. Was that movie Grumpy Old Men with Don Lemon and
God, I can't think of his
Matthau,
name.
Walter Matthau.
Yes.
Well played. The two of them sniping at each other for an hour and a half. I want that while we're solving a mystery.
Sure.
I want Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Meets Cthulhu.
Have you watched any of the what was it? Only Murders Happen in the apartment with Martin Short and Steve Martin?
No, I don't know this one.
And Selena Gomez. So Martin Short and Steve Martin have a mystery podcast.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's Selena Gomez is involved as well in there, and I don't know enough about the story, but apparently, it's Only Murders Happen in the building.
Okay.
And there's murders that have happened, and they're trying to figure out the truth of it, but there's all these other stars that are themselves that come in and out of the story, and it's that bickering, lightheartedness, supportiveness, things like that come into it. And I feel that there's a large part of that in this. It's like if you did it as like a retirement community.
Yeah.
Like like almost like a slice of life, but it's a mystery on top of that. It's the Cabot Cove.
Yeah.
Of situation. You can jump in and out of it easily. It doesn't have to have a finish. The mystery can just keep going. And that's okay. And that's kind of how I see it, is that I like the mechanics. I think the mechanics are light enough that as a storyteller, it's almost a beer and popcorn game for myself. Right? I can sit back and just dart things at the wall and watch the players lean into things and then be like, okay, so here's what's going on with that. And they're like, what? And it's just another dart in the wall for me. It's that simple. It's not me writing a ton of stuff. Right, to try and come up with a 3-part mystery or anything like that. It's super intrigue based, and yet we have all the recovery methods and the care methods that go into the game almost feel like the One Ring as well, in the way that they have to handle themselves and deal with darkness, right? Whatever that may be. I love all of that. I love all of that feel. And I am traditionally not good at simple. So this pushes me to the extreme of simple.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to do it. Like, I know this is going to be so very hard for me, right?
You're like, but who is the killer? And this system is pressing a gun to your forehead and going, repeat after me. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
Say it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter right now, at least, and that is the key. Is it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about it. What about you?
As far as Brindlewood Bay goes?
Yeah.
So I know this is kind of a controversial hot take, because I know this is really the dividing factor between people who love it and people who hate it when they get to this into Brindlewood Bay. But it was actually the Lovecraftian elements that really drove me in.
I think it's great
because I adore the slow roll. Like, okay, say what you want about Harry Potter, especially about the death of that author, but inshallah. But one thing that you can say about the progression of that story is that book 1, it starts off very lighthearted and like, oh, it's a cute little wizard school, and this is the little boy who lives under the stairs, and he's a magical boy. And then, like, by the end of it, it's like people are dying, and the apocalypse is coming, and the evil wizard is, like, at the school, killing everybody, and, the evil Hitler wizard army has risen up, and, so it's a slow boil. And you almost kind of don't notice it happening if you just kind of progress through the story naturally. And I feel like Brindlewood Bay kind of does the same thing, where it's like the first mystery is just like, oh, the little, Brindlewood Bay book club, the old ladies there stumbled into solving this mystery. How cute. Golden Girls called the cops and did something right.
Yeah.
And then little bits of darkness start creeping in, and you're like, well, that's weird. What is this weird mask that this person had in their bedroom?
Yeah.
Huh.
Why?
It doesn't seem connected to anything else, but we'll remember it was there.
That was a very odd knife that was used.
Who uses a wavy knife like this?
Yeah.
And then, by the end of it, it's like Dagon is rising from the sea, and you have to defeat their cultists. I like that slow boil of things getting a little more serious and a little more serious and a little more serious.
Well, to me, all I can see is Hot Fuzz in slow-mo.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a comedy about a couple goofy cops, and by the end, it's like the greater good.
Stop saying that.
Stop saying that. It's like this evil cult that manipulates everything.
But they got all shotguns and machine guns.
Yes,
fantastic.
That's precisely what I want Hot Fuzz Golden Girls edition.
First off, I want to pull together all of those shows' music because I want to be able to play the Murder, She Wrote music, the in between scenes, like the.
Yes.
I just want to play that little riffs in between scenes and stuff. Because I think that makes the moments. Right?
I almost want to pull the theme music from the movie Clue as well for like when we're doing the reveal of who done it.
Yeah.
And you sat here,
and you sat here, and you sat here, and you sat here, and you sat here, sipping. Get on with it! I'm getting there.
I had to stop her screaming.
It's true. It is so true.
Yes, absolutely.
But and then all the little shenanigans that happened in Hot Fuzz, I think, add to that. But those shenanigans are player generated.
I
love that.
Yeah,
I love that kind of stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I think I'm good on that one. I'm going to pause in this because we have not made a turtle reference. Knox is absolutely correct. It's been a long time for the turtles.
Yes.
And so Palladium came up in the discussion channel because someone was talking about altering to D100 for skill checks.
Yeah.
And I was like, you mean like Palladium?
Palladium?
Yeah. Like, yes, exactly. And I'm like, whoa, that's a blast in my past. Holy Lord.
Well, it also came up recently, too, because I guess they're putting out a remaster version of the TMNT and Other Strangeness rules. And I looked into it, and it's basically just a reprint. It's not, they're not updating the rules or anything like that. And all right, so I'm going to be real with you, Knox, in the box. Asking to run a Ninja Turtle game, that's a tall order, man.
So
Palladium as a system it's a very old system. It takes its roots from like early 80s gaming, like late 70s, early 80s.
Hard crunch, hard
simulationist.
Long simulationist character creation.
Yeah.
With not a lot of payoff.
Yeah. Like I am not joking. I mean, back me up on this one. Like 8 hours to create a character.
I mean, if you're serious,
you're serious about it, you bring a couple source books, and
I remember in a weekend with friends at a friend's house, we spent a minimum of 4 hours with ideas ahead of time, going through and hashing out everything for characters. Now, with character creators, it would probably be much easier because you're not flipping as much in the books. And if you did the randomization, it might be a little faster, but at the same time, it's going to be super annoying. But just the fact that, like, every time you level up something, like, I remember when I leveled up my Kung Fu, I had to go look up what line item extra bonuses I got and redo my totaling.
Right, exactly. And there's like 23 different types of combat bonuses that you got, like, roll with punch and dodge and parry. Dodge and parry are two different things, used in different ways. The initiative system is just chunky as heck.
Yeah.
He asks in live chat, unfixable. Like, I don't know that it's unfixable. I don't know that anything is unfixable. I would say if I did anything, obviously I would port it to Savage Worlds because that's my go-to system. They've already done Savage Rifts. That's that's a existing, and that's a licensed a licensed system. Like this isn't a hack that somebody did. It's a licensed product, Savage Rifts.
There's going to be a Savage Robotech as well, from what I've heard.
So there's already precedent for taking a Palladium game and porting it over to Savage Worlds. I would have to do some research into what sort of calculations they did to do that, which would probably involve buying the Savage Rifts book, and then applying those same sort of calculations to all the stuff in the Turtles books. But the big thing is that there's a system for building your own mutants called BioE, which is actually a really good system. I really like the system.
I liked it a lot.
The BioE system for customizing your mutants is amazing, but it also is intrinsically tied into the Palladium system.
Right.
So you would basically have to go through every single possible mutant animal, and there are... I mean, if you told me it's hundreds...
It's hundreds.
I would believe you.
It's hundreds, because you have subsets of species.
Yeah, and then you've got all the mutants of the Yucatan, mutants of Avalon, mutants down under, and roadhogs, things like that.
Yeah.
For extra mutant templates and stuff like that. And you would have to go through all of those and essentially do the calculations on each one to convert their BioE calculations over to Savage Worlds.
Right.
So therefore, if your players randomly rolled that, I mean, you could arguably do it on just the ones your players rolled.
Yeah.
But, you would be doing that at your session 0 or something like that.
It would still be complicated.
It would be really complicated, yeah. We're talking a lot of front-loaded work on the storyteller here.
Yeah. And to play it as is, I think you could, but I don't think it... I think it would lose its luster to the people who weren't prepared to spend that kind of investment. So your players who are gung-ho probably would be fine. Everyone else would probably be just dragged along and not really getting the reasoning for it.
I agree. And even as a storyteller, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought we had a second one that was matched up, but I don't.
Urban Shadows.
I didn't do Urban Shadows.
You had Urban Shadows on your list, you liar.
Originally, I did. I didn't pull it down.
Oh, fine. You didn't pull it down. All right.
It's okay. Because the other thing that I want to do, I would say, and I think in the back of your mind, you probably have, because you've talked about it, Cyberpunk.
I've talked about it. Yeah.
And I'm not talking just Cyberpunk Red. I want to do something Cyberpunk. I've always enjoyed the setting of Shadowrun and of Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah.
That base concept, that core lifestyle of the highs and the lows, what's happened to things. Even to a degree, your Tron idea. Because, again, that still shows that odd power balance, right? That complete imbalance of what's going on. And we have the new Tron movie that's going to be coming out, actually. It's in production right now, from what I've heard. I don't necessarily have a direct story ready for it, but the kind of feeling that I'm looking for is like a failed group who's being hunted by the cops, or that could have been cops or corp or crew, that lose their leader and then are now blamed for whatever the situation is, right? Expendable kind of situation or whatever, where maybe they were sent in to do a job, but during that job, it comes too close to the end, and whoever signed them up for the job shoots their leader in the head instead of paying them. And it becomes a shootout, and literally the game starts with you exiting the shootout, right?
Yeah.
So, that's where you begin, is at the bottom of the pile being hunted.
Right, yeah.
So you've got something like that, or even, something closer to Arcane, the animated series from League of Legends, where the players are at the bottom, right? And it is, the area, wherever you're at, is ripe for a revolution, right? And you're part of it. You're seeing it happen, but at the same time, what you're being asked to do is get yourself really dirty to make it happen. And how dirty are you willing to get?
Right.
And how clean does the top really look then?
Yeah.
Why are you climbing?
I'm reminded of a quote. Actually, believe it or not, it comes from the Silent Hill 3 soundtrack.
Okay.
Doth lie beget truth? Doth verity but wear the mask of falsehood? i.e., can you start with a lie and ever get to a truth from it?
Right.
Or is it tainted because it began with a lie?
Yeah.
You know?
And that right there is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and effectively that's the truth of both of those stories. They're very similar in their aspect. Again, I think the hard part that I have is that I don't necessarily have a mechanic set right off the top that sits in my head of what's going to work. You know, do I want to do with my players something crunchy and tactical that they can get their teeth really into, like Savage Worlds or Cyberpunk Red? Or do I want to put something on a timeline, like Arc Doom? Where, like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
How do you get there is your choice.
The only problem with Arc Doom is that it is very much designed for a very short story.
Right, and again, a difficult thing for me to do.
Right, like even 6 sessions of Arc Doom is like really stretching it. It's designed for more like 3 at the max.
Yeah, 3 to 4 sessions.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, get yourself in, get the ball rolling up to speed.
Yeah.
The pins are coming.
I'll be honest with you. What I would do if my suggestion, because like, having reviewed options for it and stuff like that, I looked over Cyberpunk Red. In my opinion, the system is a little too crunchy for I think what either of us are comfortable with, and really kind of what our gaming group is comfortable with. For again, kind of little payoff. You have not run Savage Worlds.
No.
I would suggest I have the book for Sprawl Runners, which is essentially a Shadowrun with serial numbers filed off of it. I would give that to you and say, run this if you're going to run a Cyberpunk story. Then you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
And I think it would be great. That said, you brought up Arc Doom.
I did.
And I remember saying during our system spotlight on Arc Doom, this if you guys remember way back when we did the system spotlight, this is a game specifically designed to be played in an apocalypse. In some way, the world will catastrophically end at the end of the story. And it's a lot about what your characters are doing with that borrowed time and possibly trying to avert that apocalypse, whether they can or not. And it has a lot of like real-time mechanics in it. Like, there are outright stuff that says, once you do this, you can't do this for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean in-game time. It means look at the clock in the kitchen, and when that says 5 minutes have passed, you can do it again, wherever you are in the story, you know? Right. And your stories last for a certain amount of time, like measured literally in hours. Of like, this is going to be a 4-hour game.
Yeah.
And then the world will end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, guess we better get busy then, you know?
Yeah,
I guess you better, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of really like that. The idea that I had was that the characters would play someone very much like, not TVA agents from the Time Variance Administration from Marvel, or like from Loki, but like something very much like that, where they're reality agents. They're ruled by some sort of a higher power that says, I can see the multiverse, and this reality over here, something catastrophic has shifted it off its axis. We need to fix it, because if it continues along its current thing, it's going to be catastrophic and it's going to end. And unlike the TVA, we're not trying to prune them down to one prime reality. We want these realities to thrive. They're all valid. We want to fix them if they spin off their axis like that, you know. So we dispatch these reality agents to go try to fix it. And they're empowered with certain, you know, reality-defying magics or technologies, or call them whatever you want. They're indistinguishable.
Right. Correct.
You know, powers to do so. And then they just try their best to fix the reality before it destroys itself. And I thought that would be a cool idea to get through. It's literally an idea I've had since college. So yeah, that's on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some very interesting things that I would throw into that storyline to make it all work, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I did have on my list Urban Shadows originally. As something, but then I realized that I needed to back off from it, was because I'm not so much interested in running it as I'm interested in playing it, right? I've wanted to play. I played a few sessions, but I never got to enjoy it.
Of
Urban Shadows.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, as much as I'd like to run it, I really want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where my love for it sits.
Yeah.
Is that I want to sit at that edge of it, and to be honest, like if you're going to run it, like I would be there for it because I loved the way that it runs, and that's where the love for it comes from me. And so I don't want to be running it. I don't want to sit behind the counter, or sit behind the table in that sense. But I do feel at the same time that the mechanics of the system make it enjoyable for everyone, and the players are way more in control of what's going on. So, in that sense, it changes the scape immediately of the table. Not unlike Fate does in many ways. In the way that you're altering things as things move through. But it puts me in that perspective of I want to be creative on this side of the table kind of a thing. And that's where I sit with that. I know you're interested in it because of Dresden.
Well,
specifically.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Dresden verse. And when I originally read Urban Shadows, I was like, oh, holy cow, this is a Dresden game, you know. But it doesn't have to be.
No.
You know, I think Urban Shadows is a much smaller, much more intimate story than a Dresden Files thing. Dresden kind of has a very wide universe with wide sweeping sort of implications. I don't think it has to be. I think you can play it as a small neighborhood game, you know, and you take care of the things that are happening in your backyard.
Well,
you don't have to worry about, you know, the Red Court's, you know, war with the White Council. Like, you don't have to drag that into your story.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would if I ran either Urban Shadows as Dresden or conversely ran Dresden Accelerated.
Right.
I would. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. You know, I would have you guys as like little hedge mages and, you know, lesser paranormals that are forming a small cadre of Paranet people for protection because the world is scary. The Red Court is scary. The White Council wants to know what your hedge mage is doing.
Right.
A warden called you the other day.
Yeah.
You know, so you band together and you're like, okay, well, this dude's a werewolf and that dude's you know, a vampire spawn or something like that, but had made their full change and doesn't want to. So we're gonna help them resist their urge, and I'm gonna help you be a good werewolf and not, you know,
not a
flip out and kill
swearwolf.
people. And you're gonna keep the wardens off my ass because, you know, as I learn more magic and whatnot, and we're all just gonna watch each other's backs.
Yeah.
And nobody touches us.
And at the same time, there's still shit going down in your local area.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the whole point is that is the what is it? That's the stir in the pot.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Like, stuff is going to come knocking at your door whether you want it to or not, because there is a world that exists out there, you know?
Yep, exactly.
So you can only dodge it for so long.
All right. We have good questions.
We have really good
questions. We have lots of questions, and I want to get through them.
God, we have so many questions.
We do.
And it's already 8.
Yes. Sorry, not sorry, John. All right. Overwatch asks why we have never tested out Dinosaur Planet Bronchosaurus Rex. It's a space cowboy on Dinosaur Planet. I'm sorry. We just never got to it.
There's so much content out there.
There is so much content, but it sounds epically awesome, honestly.
It does sound wild.
But on a serious note, what game did you end up checking off your bucket list that was a letdown? Alternatively, what was one that you didn't think that was going to be all that, and in fact was all that? Without a doubt, I will say the biggest letdown of this year for me was since the beginning was Dark Souls. Without a doubt, biggest letdown.
Yeah.
I had high expectations on the lore at the very least.
Yeah.
Or the combat, right? That it was going to be super crunchy and like stress and stamina were going to be necessary. No. Everything was a letdown. I mean, I guess the good news is the entire thing was a letdown. Right? What about you?
No, I think Dark Souls is pretty much up there. I'm a huge Souls fan.
Yeah.
And just seeing that they essentially tried to be like, oh, yeah, there's monsters, and you can't die, so go fight them. That was the game. That was the whole game. Their world-building section was like, yeah, these are the zones in Dark Souls 3. Oh, So you're not actually going to tell us like what happened with the
You're
world.
not even going to give us
and,
the Wikipedia.
Yeah, you're not even going to give us the Wikipedia. You're literally just going to give us the Dark Souls 3 strategy guide and, call it quits. Okay, cool.
On a shitty map, too, by the way.
Yeah, and I remember you had some pretty big disappointments at Numenera as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanted that game to be so much. I think I wanted that game to be so much more. I love the concept of it, but
I really did. That was disappointing on a totally different level.
Yeah.
Just because it was their flagship, and that's I mean, Mont Cook has it's a great idea. I just don't think it fits in that world at all. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I get what they were trying to do, but I don't think they were able to achieve it. But still, Dark Souls was the biggest disappointment.
Do you have one that pleasantly surprised you?
I mean, I didn't know what to expect out of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that one pleasantly surprised me. You know, I'll take that back. I think Kids on Bikes was my more pleasant surprise. I kind of had like a rough inkling of like what I expected it to be, and
what
people
Kids on Bikes not land on our lists up here though. You know, like
honestly, because I think for me it still sits in the too big of campaign.
Fair enough.
Like, I want it to be Goonies. I want it to be E.T. I want it to be something larger.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And in that sense, and I'm trying to step away from those things. Mm-hmm. You know, it's epic in its scale that it can be, but limited in its rule set and control. And all of that works great. I mean, technically, you could do Kids in Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
You know, and get away with it as Kids on Bikes, which I think actually would be really, really cool if, like, the kids, like, the one powerful thing was, like, a robot they found.
Right.
Like, that just works, right?
Yeah.
In the cyberpunk setting. Or even somebody who's cybered who has no memory.
Uh-huh.
And they're just helping that person, right?
Yep.
You know, Johnny, right after he got woken up again or whatever from Cyberpunk. But yeah, I think that was the one where I was like, damn, this is really good. I now know why people really like this.
Yeah.
It's not just hyped. It's not just like, oh, we're making up for lost space. No, it's really well done. It deserves what it got and the accolades that it received.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think for me it was the One Ring.
Okay.
The One Ring really shocked me. Like, I was expecting, like, okay, I mean, I'm a moderate Lord of the Rings fan. Like, I've seen the movies. I enjoyed them.
Right.
I kind of know what I'm talking about with the lore, but, like, not Stephen Colbert level, you know?
Right, no.
Nobody's on Stephen Colbert's level.
Nobody.
Not even James Franco.
No.
But, yeah, I walked out of that going, holy cow, like, this is the gameplay loop that Dungeons & Dragons says that it has and doesn't.
Yeah.
You know? And it looks like it provided that grand adventure.
Without a doubt.
And I was very enthusiastic about it. I don't know that I'll ever get around to running it. I would say it's probably ostensibly on the list, but it's probably somewhere like behind a bunch of the other games.
Yeah, because there's definitely other things that are different enough that I want to try them.
Right, exactly.
I don't need to go back to D&D, but better.
Precisely. Even if it is better, we've done
D&D.
fantasy. I've just done a multi-year campaign over that. So
exactly. Violent Menace has got a couple questions for us, to say the least.
So is it better to create an original setting, use an existing IP for a setting, or use a historical setting, or a mix?
Okay, so I'm going to sit this in the opinion house versus in the practice house.
Sure.
In my opinion, with players that are at the table, you really have to judge that based upon who you're bringing to the table, what you're willing to bring. So, like in my case with 7th, I have players who want to play 7th for the setting, not for the rule set. So, I can use that as a basis point.
Yeah.
And run a game easily out of that. So for me, I like the idea, and I think it's easier to run an idea that's an existing IP or setting than trying to do something that is that's literally anything else. I think you run into risks with the original setting because you have to teach them too much. Now, I caveat that with the fact of something like Powered by the Apocalypse, where the players are involved with the setting creation. You give them a very light framework of what the basic universe rules are, if you will, and then they fill in all the blanks for you. And at that point, it's their world, and now they're invested. Which is way better than even just handing them a setting that they aren't invested in, but they know of. Like Lord of the Rings is a setting that most people know, but they're not going to be invested in it.
Sure.
because their characters in it don't know the people involved.
Yeah, they're not the Fellowship,
right.
so
But
who
if
cares?
you, on the other hand, stepped it in and said, okay, I want you guys to make your Shire, or I want you guys to make your wood, and explain to me this section of the map. Now they're invested. Now they own these things, these assets. And I think that's the difference with the historical setting as well. I think if people are interested in the setting, like in the case of our Nations and Cannons friends, I think if you're already embedded in it in something like an educational setting, sure, bury yourself. I would have loved to play Nations and Cannons when I was learning Civil War when I was in high school. That would have been the bomb.
That would have been amazing.
That would have been the bomb to play. And I highly recommend that on that side. But at the same time, like, I don't know if I would enjoy that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I was presented with another friend who was part of a Kickstarter for a First Nations game that is effectively what would have happened if a meteor had passed near the Earth and no one could have crossed the Atlantic or Pacific Oceans.
Oh, what is it, Coyote and Crow or something like that? Yeah.
It's beautiful, by the way.
It's something like that. That may not be the right answer, or the right name, but it's something
that's
like that. Yeah.
accurate, actually. But I got to hold the book. It is a beautiful book. It's a beautiful setting. The concept is pretty incredible.
Oh, it is Coyote and Crow.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
And it was a neat idea. I like the idea of it, and I think from the perspective of understanding and getting into what the tribes are like, what the setting would be like, the almost Wakanda-esque technology level that when everybody finally shows up in about, a certain time period, what that would actually be, is unique. I like it. I think it would be a unique setting. I don't know how many of my players who would be interested in it. And even the person that I was reading the book was actually asking the question of not so much that setting, but what would Europe look like when the seas opened? Now that, obviously, they didn't come back over, so did we have all the events that happened in Europe, but now that's different because they didn't have any of the things from the New World?
Well, it probably didn't have a Revolutionary War, that's for sure, so...
No Revolutionary War, no French and Indian, no trade.
Yeah.
So what never made it? So now nobody's smoking because there's no tobacco. There's no salt, like giant salt. There's no sugar. Like there's just tons of stuff that never happened in Europe.
Yeah.
And that would change all kinds of things. And so that question came out of it, and I was like, that's not even the setting. That's a spin-off from the setting.
Right.
That you're immediately thinking about that is something you're interested in. So it's stuff like that always kind of makes me wonder, and I say that you're better to lean into something that is existing that people are already invested or attached to, or help them get invested by putting them into the setting and letting them build components.
Yeah.
Not even character backgrounds, but like together build components of what's part of their world.
Yeah, okay. It's a lot more complete of an answer than I was going to give. I didn't think there was really any functional difference between these three things.
Okay.
I think it's whatever's best for your story and for your table.
Fair enough.
It is neither better to do one than the other.
Okay.
But yeah, whatever gets your buy-in, I think, is your thesis statement.
Fair.
All right, so what is your favorite way to roll dice and type of dice roll? Ironically, I hate D20 combat, but I love rolling D20. For my Cortex Pirate game, I load all my dice into a Pirates of the Caribbean dice rolling cup, kind of like Yahtzee. Do you use a tray or a dice tower?
What is my favorite way to roll dice and type of dice to roll?
Okay, I like handfuls of dice.
I do too. 7th Sea taught me dice and exploding, and there's something about holding a pile of D10s.
Yeah. We grew up on vampires, so grabbing 8 D10 in a handful.
I mean, I have so many D10. Yeah. I have so many D10. There's something special about a D10 over a D6.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said of BattleTech D6s.
You see those zeros come up, and you're just like, feels so good.
Yeah, and I think... So I would have to say D10s.
Yeah.
I think handily rolling D10s. Don't give me a tool.
I don't disagree with that, yeah.
Because there's something special about holding both of your hands together and going, ka-chunk, 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 and dropping.
I'll be honest with you, I've never understood dice towers. That they feel like you're just adding a large thing to sitting in the middle of the table that just does
Somebody
what
played
you
too
could
much
do with your
putt-putt.
hand. Yeah, exactly.
Somebody played too much putt-putt.
Like, they feel extraneous to me. Now,
Yeah.
dice trays, I feel are necessary.
So necessary.
They make them out of leather, really nice leather ones nowadays. So that also kind of dampens the clickety clack of the dice all over the place. So it makes it quieter. And it also contains them when they go all over the place inevitably.
100%. I agree with all of those statements. Yep.
Is enjoying the randomness in RPGs correlated with enjoying gambling?
No,
No,
not in the least.
no, because nothing's on the line other than like a fictional to hit roll or something like that.
I understand where you're coming from. Like when I gambled, I played craps.
Same.
And I enjoyed craps because I could understand the odds and still make it an entertainment game.
Exactly the same reason why I play craps when I
Like I can't. I don't want to play. I don't. Craps isn't competitive.
Yeah.
It's cooperative. I love that about it.
To me, it's just D&D that I might be able to earn some extra money on. Like
it's true.
We're just rolling 2d6. I've been rolling 2d6 since I was 12 years old. Let's go.
It's so true. It's
Let's go.
so true. It's so true. So for me,
but I play at like the $5 tables. Like I'm not trying to bankroll my house
Agreed.
off of it. I'm just trying to grab some drinks for the night.
Dude,
you know?
when I was in Vegas and I found a quarter table craps downtown, and this is way back in the day, it was hilarious. Nobody there was playing seriously. It was hilarious when people are making $20 off of certain rolls, and it was fun. It was just fun. It was slappy fun, and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I loved playing at the Luxor with my buddy who had never played craps before, and literally making him late for his wedding because I was teaching him craps.
My friend taught me craps at Treasure Island.
Not a bad spot.
Ironically, we took our Vegas trips at the same time and didn't know it, and we ran into each other organically.
That's fantastic.
It was so good. He was like, "Now that I know you're here, I'm going to show you the ropes," and we're like, "Awesome, let's go."
Yeah.
So he taught me craps at Treasure Island, and then we were staying at the Mandalay Bay, and I spent most of the night at the $5 table. And I was up like $400 or something like that. So I took me and my ex to a fancy lobster dinner that night.
We did the same thing. Like I was up $300.
Yeah.
And so I bought a limo ride back from the event that we went to, and then the next day bought them cake.
Yeah.
They had a wedding and they didn't have any cake.
Yeah.
It's entertainment money. I didn't lose any money.
Exactly. And then I took what was left of it after the dinner the next day and played at the craps table, lost all the rest of it. And when I got down to losing what I had earned the night before, I stopped.
You stopped, yeah.
Because I broke even, essentially.
Yep.
You know? I got a dinner out of it. Cool.
Yep, exactly. So I will say no. I will say no. I don't attribute those in any way, and I've never really seen anybody attribute those. I do attribute the joy of a good roll at the table to the craps joy.
That's true. That's true.
That's...
You can see the difference between someone who has seen the joy of a boss-killing nat 20 crit, rolling their 7,
or hitting mark and watching the entire table light up because everybody's
a lot of people a lot of money.
And everybody's happy. They're all with you. It's all co-op at that point. So except for that one douchebag who's betting against you on
who's betting don't pass.
Is the don't pass line. Yeah.
I cleared a table at the MGM Grand doing that.
Yep.
I was rolling like absolute ass all night, so I started betting don't pass on myself.
Yep.
And people were like, "Oh shit, she's winning money." Like,
Yep.
we got to get out of here. This table's cold. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see.
Where are you going? I'm up 150.
Okay, fair enough. Does anyone else find actual play podcasts unenjoyable? I think there is a control freak GM in me. When I listen to them, I always just wishing I was playing GMing instead. The only exception is watching solo RPGs like Me, Myself, and Die. I can't watch Let's Plays. I've tried. I really have a hard time with it.
Yeah, you just straight up do not across the board.
I do not. I have watched a few, especially when it's a developer who's either running the game or playing in the game, because I'm always interested to see how they play.
Yeah.
How they play their own game, and then most of the time they don't.
Well, there's a big difference between like sitting out and enjoying an actual play as like a story, and like doing it as research for how to play a game.
Yeah, but I kind of went into this on the Discord a little bit, and that is, I think there's I think there's a lot of variation in Let's Play, so you don't necessarily know what you're getting. And the people who really love Let's Plays, for the most part that I've identified, with their love for it, is either someone who watched it since the beginning and kind of enjoyed it from the beginning.
And is invested.
And has been invested in it. Or two, they're invested in the people playing, not the actual story, and the story comes organically after that.
And I think that's the big divider for me. Like, I started watching Critical Role. Critical Role is actually what got me into 5th edition in the first place, and started off my Elder Scrolls game. And I fell in love with them there. I loved the players. I started researching who they were and what they had been in and stuff like that as voice actors. And I really enjoyed all of Season 1, or all of Campaign 1, and all of Campaign 2. And I kind of fell off real hard with Campaign 3. I think I made it maybe like 20 episodes or something.
Did you even watch any of the, Candela Obscura? Or
Candela Obscura, I watched a little bit of, and it's good, but I don't know, I had other things on my plate at the time when it was coming out, and I haven't watched them. The production quality looks stellar.
Sure.
So there's objectively no reason why I shouldn't watch them and like them. But I just haven't.
Right.
There
hasn't been an investment.
I don't think I'm as invested in it. And because I liked Critical Role, I thought I was a person who liked Let's Plays.
Yeah.
Or live plays, and I can't get into any other live play.
Yeah.
I did watch some Dimension 20 actually. We did watch Fantasy High.
Yeah.
At least the first season of that, and that was stellar. But that's Brennan, so of course
Again,
it's stellar. But I'm invested in the person, and
you want to see what Brennan and some of the other
and
people.
Lou Wilson and Murphy, and
I'm going to say it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with leaning into a Let's Play for that. But I think that alone makes other Let's Plays that don't have any of those attributes, and actors.
We're mentally comparing them. Like, this isn't Critical Role. This isn't Dimension 20. I can't get into it.
Right, but it's not. It's more like reality TV.
Yeah,
and they're light years apart.
Yeah,
in their design,
exactly,
and implementation. So that's why I can't get into it, is because there's no drive for me to get into them. And there's no good way to review head in on some of these, because they're just not making the algorithm. Like, I don't even know they exist unless someone's just like, oh, don't you know about this obscure named thing? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's 7th Sea. Great. Which edition? Where are they playing? Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, is there a trailer or something? And again, these people don't have budgets to do that kind of stuff. And so sometimes their initial delivery is crap, or even their first episode is total shit. And then later they pick up and people are like, oh, you just got to stay with them. And it's like, I don't know if I have that staying power with normal TV. Like, it took me a while to get through episodic stuff that was episodic, and I had to wait.
Yeah.
I hate that. So
instant gratification culture.
So I get it. So I totally get it.
Yep.
Let's see. Nevim, what are you looking for in a game? How do you choose a game? We have an episode on that. I'm just going to leave it there. Legitimately, it was in first year that we had how to choose your system.
First episode.
No, our first episode really doesn't go into the depth. We actually have an episode on how to choose your system.
Okay, fair
That's
enough.
a little later on, because we realized we hadn't gone into the detail of it.
Yeah,
but in all truth, if you really want us to break it down, when you're looking for a game, look for how it teaches you to play.
Yeah,
because that'll tell you whether or not your players are going to enjoy it or not.
It'll tell you what it values.
Yeah, and then as far as choosing the game, like we kind of talked about it today, really it comes down to what kind of story you want to tell. It's not even about the setting.
Yeah, what do you want to accomplish with the game? I think there's a story sort of thing, and there's a meta sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a feeling that you want to evoke. Is it dark and brooding and dangerous? There are systems for that.
But also there's things on our lists that was like, I've never run anything like this before. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, and it's a good reason to do it. Do you have games you would love to play / master, and yet cannot because you have the feeling it won't appeal to the other players?
Literally,
yes.
Every Lovecraftian horror game that's ever crossed my dashboard that I go, oh, this is awesome, I know I can't run.
Yeah.
I can never run Dread. I can never run Call of Cthulhu, Cthulhu Dark. I can't run Alien for you guys. It just ain't going to happen. Brindlewood Bay is going to be as close as I get to running a Lovecraft game.
Yeah, I could see that.
And even then, I might lose some players.
Yeah. I will say, well, it all depends on your execution.
Yeah, that's true.
Or execution.
Hey.
For me, I think it's I can't run horror for any of my table.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I wanted to try it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to reach out.
Yeah.
And do something with a different group completely. Who'd be interested in it. So I think that's my big one.
Yeah.
JGen X, who's out there, which rule books you have read that were the most interesting in terms of presentation, art style? How about least interesting? Oh God, we've had some great systems. Arc Doom is beautiful.
Arc Doom is a work of art.
I mean,
that teaches you rules along the way.
I'm literally sitting next to Merkborg right now, and I will say, it is what it is. Every page bleeds Merkborg.
Black metal. Norwegian black metal. The role-playing game.
And it makes you respect it and love it. Every page. So,
it's amazing.
I will say that this book deserved every accolade. People were getting, when we were at Gen Con, the artists were there to sign it.
Oh, it's so awesome.
And we missed the signings, and I understand why they were swamped and they had to get the hell out of there, because there was like a 2-hour-long line.
Yeah.
And it deserves it. It totally deserves it.
I'll tell you what, the One Ring is an amazingly beautiful book.
It is an incredibly beautiful book.
Absolutely beautiful book.
It really is. Most disappointing, again, I'm going to go back to Dark Souls. It was a severe disappointment for what it is.
You needed to go back to the editor a second time.
It was totally uninteresting. Trying to think if there was any others that really.
I think there's a handful of books that you read, especially with your dyslexia, you have a hard time dealing with bricks of text, and there were a couple books that we read through that were just this is just it's a slog to read through because the formatting, it's not broken up with any flavor text or sidebar or anything like that,
Yeah, no, there was a number that were like that, and it's why I can't think of them, is because it's hard for me to really have a hard impression of some of those. But there were definitely anything that felt like I was reading a goddamn tome.
Yeah.
With no breakup.
Through the Breach, I think, was a little disappointing for me for a lot of that reason, because I'm a big fan of Weird's Malifaux setting, which is where it takes place in. And I feel like in a lot of ways the game was very bloated. It has some really cool mechanics in it, but man, that thing is a phone book. It is huge. It's not bad looking, but I was disappointed that they couldn't trim it down to something a little more succinct, and it took us a long time to learn the rules so that we could teach it to you on the system spotlight. And I think that was disappointing for me because the miniature skirmish game that goes with the setting, Malifaux, is in my experience. It's been years since I've played it, but in my experience, it was really fast paced and clean. And to see the tabletop role playing game kind of get in the weeds over things was a little unfortunate for me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, where are we at here?
What are the must-haves and nice-to-haves in a rulebook? For example, a must-have in a rulebook is a detailed table of contents, and a nice-to-have is a good GM advice section.
So there's two things I would say to this that sit right at the top of my page, and they're not art. They're not even necessarily the fonts. Font sits there pretty high on me. Links. Do not screw up your table of contents and linkage within your book. Agreed. Especially if it's more than 50 pages.
Agreed.
If you screw that up, your players are going to hate you.
Still
your
looking for that table on page XX, White Wolf.
Oh my god. Editing is so damn important, but I'm not even going to get... That's basic publishing right there. That's basic publishing.
That's a 20-year-old joke, I'm pretty sure.
I think the other part of it is, that's a must-have in most of the books that I've seen that we've really enjoyed, is the running story example.
Oh God, you stole my answer. Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
But we both agree on that.
But it's so vital to be like, okay, here's Tom, Dick, and Harry. They're playing this game. Their characters are Bob, Joe, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie. So Huey on this turn is going to fire his gun and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Okay, cool. and then take us through, okay, now that Huey has fired his gun, we're going to, here's your example of damage resolution. Like, cool. And the next section is going to be like, okay, now that Huey has shot somebody, he wants to sneak away. Here's how you handle stealth. Like,
right. And now they're going to have an argument, and now they're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's how heat works, and things like that.
Right, right.
And it's just a solid build all the way through, till the point where you get to the end, where they give you the adventure that set all of this in motion.
Right.
And you're like, you feel as a storyteller that you know where you're at. You've been told the story, you know who these people are. You're not coded in setting and then given little weird examples that honestly in some books make absolutely no sense, because we've even looked at some of the D&D ones and we're like, why would you put that in as the example? That doesn't even apply to, like,
right.
This doesn't work.
That's such a weird edge case.
Yeah, like why is that the example that you'd put in the section?
Exactly.
But to have that running commentary that your players can follow, and then use the storyteller then looking at the adventure and going, I understand the world.
Right.
I understand your intention and direction that you put into it.
Is that a must-have, or is that a nice-to-have?
I think that's a must-have. I think the two there for me are must-haves. The ability to like go to your index and click something and find all the entries without having to do a Control F in the PDF and find it. Like,
and a living example of show me how to play your damn game.
Those are must-haves.
Yep.
Nice-to-haves, I will say, I think in all of the books that we've had, for me, a nice-to-have is the alternative font / bolding of important sections.
I agree.
Where, like, as I'm reading through a paragraph, this bit of text is bold and highlighted.
That was
like somebody literally took a highlighter to it.
Yeah, Arc Doom was phenomenal about that.
Yeah.
You could skim a page and know exactly where the rules were.
Right, and effectively what the basic rule was. Not the whole thing, but just like, this is what you need to know.
Yeah. Yep.
And don't put a wrap up at the end. You don't necessarily need that. A lot of game systems do that. I think it's nice. I think it's very helpful to have like the step by step that's in there, because 7th Sea did that. But I feel like if you have it in the flow of the book, you don't have to add pages. You don't have to put that in there, those steps. That means you're already doing. It's too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But to be able to just highlight the text and have it be a juxtaposition color, right, and then have that running commentary, you're doing an incredible job. Plus, it helps people like me, where a block of text just, it's hard to adjust. It really, really is. And for you, like, reading helps you, but you need physicality quickly.
I do. Yeah.
You need to be able to attach to that rule very fast.
And for me, like, what my nice to have would be extending your example of gameplay characters into character creation.
Why not?
I would love to see, why does Huey have a +3 to his firearms? Well, because his player wanted to build this type of character. He had these options. He chose this and this and this.
Yeah, I think Shadowrun 2nd edition did that with the play examples.
Yeah.
Because you could see, not only did you get images, which is great, as much as that gets people invested, but the character stats were right there.
Yeah, and like all these years later, having never basically touched a Shadowrun book for probably a good decade at this point, I still remember those 3 characters were Fast Jack, Sally Sung, and Ghost Who Walks Inside.
Chris would be so proud of you right now. He would be so proud of you right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go for that one. Philly fan, to piggyback off Nevim's question, what are some red flags you look for in potential new games? How do you know if a game isn't worth your time? Ooh. After all this.
All right, so for me.
Okay.
For me, I look at how much weight is put into a combat system. Straight up. I look at how simulationist combat is.
Okay.
So, take some examples here. Fate. Fate has things like zones and aspects. Okay? You don't really so much directly combat your enemy and do hit point damage to them as you try to disadvantage them by creating an obstacle. That obstacle may be a bullet, but,
Right.
So it's all very narrative. We're not looking at, like, okay, if they're exactly 5 feet away from you, you can do this maneuver, this maneuver, this maneuver. None of that happens. You've got zones. Are they in the warehouse, or are they in the office next to the warehouse?
Right.
Okay, if you're both in the warehouse, sure, melee is feasible.
Right.
You know? Whereas you look at then things like I think a great example of this would be the SCP game that we looked at, and I really wanted to like that because it was like SCP is such a cool property. But then I looked at the combat section and it was like, okay, so your character has 3 postures for firing a weapon. You can either hip fire, aim fire, or brace fire. If you brace fire, it automatically puts you back into aim fire. Yeah, exactly. Like,
so true.
I have to keep track of, per bullet, the posture of my arm.
And I feel like that's even, like, I remember 2nd edition burst fire, single fire, recoil mechanics of Shadowrun. That's it to an nth degree.
Yeah.
Like, painful nth degree.
Yeah. And I think, like, the size of a combat section, to me, tells you not only how simulationist things are going to get,
which is definitely not you,
but it also tells you how much it values combat.
Yeah.
And a prevailing opinion of mine is, give me other options than killing. I've got a dozen games at my fingertips between video games and role-playing games that I can just kill my way through.
Yeah, like Starfield.
Yeah, exactly. Combat games like Starfield. Yeah, and I'm bored with it. I want other options. I want to be able to talk to people. I want to be able to negotiate. I want to be able to intimidate.
Challenge me in a different way.
I want to be able to circumvent or stealth or manipulate. Yeah. Challenge me in a different way.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think red flags for me in a book are that I've noticed, at least in the systems that we've ran, is number one, or I wouldn't say number one, but in the top 3 is, how long does it take for me to make a character? Like, if I pick the book up as nobody, not looking at the mechanics or anything, and I go straight to character creation, how long is it going to take me to create a character? Because that tells me how long my players will take to create those characters and how quickly I will lose them. The second for me is, how engaging is that as a group? Not as an individual, but as a group, because I'm looking for group cohesion, right? I don't necessarily want my players to be at odds in my game, because most of my players that I play with at my table are co-op players. They don't want to have rules to fight each other or have arguments with each other. That should be part of the normal rule set, but they're also not making their characters, they don't want to make their characters in a vacuum. I don't want them to make their characters in a vacuum. I want them to know each other. Don't make it difficult for me to put this team together and have a lone wolf.
Right.
I absolutely can't stand that kind of stuff. And I want to say that the kind of third thing is, am I being spat at lore, or is the lore part of the game? Meaning, as I'm reading through, is it Dune, where I spend the first 60 pages learning about the universe, and then the next 28 pages learning about the mechanics?
Yeah. Like,
do they marry? Like, not just bring an example over, but, like, how does that come together?
Right.
In a cohesive way. That doesn't take me forever to then figure out who I am in that universe. Can I easily put myself into a role and know all of the general attributes of my character so that I'm excited before I start making the character? And I look at it very much from a player side of the table, because as a DM, I can make anything work. Like, once I've chosen it as the reason to do it, I need to make sure I can get player buy-in just by what? Because how many times do we get players to look at books?
Oh, Jesus. Not as often as I'd really like, yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's where it's like, and how do I know if a game isn't worth my time? Wow. If I can't understand the purpose of the game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. I really wouldn't have. But after
you can't immediately imagine, like, oh, I know what my players should be doing in this plot. Like,
no, not even that.
Oh?
It's deeper.
Okay.
Developers have a reason why they make a game.
Sure.
We've discovered that. And it sits well beyond, like, how you play the game or how they teach you to play the game. If you can't immediately ascertain what they're trying to sell, like, is this game Animal Farm?
It's an Animal Farm?
Like, is this game Animal Farm? Really, at its core?
Like by George Orwell?
Yeah. Because I can tell you there are certain systems that 100% based upon their mechanics and based upon their theme are Animal Farm, right? Or is this heroic Man in the Iron Mask, right?
Okay.
What are you trying to accomplish with this story, the mechanics, the system?
Oh,
what are
okay.
you as a developer trying to exude? If I can't find that,
Okay, yeah, so like SCP, where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, here's a game about spoopy, unexplainable things. Okay, cool. What do you do in the game? Well, here's the 15,000 pages of combat mechanics.
so we shoot everything,
So we're fighting. Well, most of them are going to be invincible.
right?
Oh, then what are...
But to
Right,
what end?
What
Right.
do we do? Are we
Even-
scientists? Are we researchers? Are we just soldiers?
Right.
You know, like...
Even to that end, it's like, okay, so if that's what you're showing me in the mechanics, it's
Uh-huh.
clearly a hunting game.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
Where you could die at any instant. So it's a horror hunting game.
Okay.
And this is the world of bad guys. What is the real story here? Everything is out to get you. That's the story. Oh, okay. That isn't obvious.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
took a lot to get there. Whereas, like, I flipped through the pages of 7C and instantaneously knew exactly what story they were
Yeah.
trying to tell,
Yeah, absolutely.
regardless of how well I looked at those mechanics. To this day, I still don't understand what they're trying to do with D&D.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. They're trying to be everything, and that doesn't help me in any way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I pick up the Book of Morkborg. I have not played this. I've talked to a few people, and I completely understand the feeling that they're trying to get
You know
across.
exactly what a game of Merkborg looks like. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
It's, I can see it, I can feel it, I can smell it.
Right.
Like, everything
Right.
about it feels that way. So then when I immediately flip this book over to Pirateborg, I have a pretty good understanding of where they were going with this, but at the same time, like, what's the difference? Again, flipping through it, instantaneously got the feel.
Yeah, sure.
I knew where they were trying to go with
Yeah.
it. And Tiny Taverns, it was the same thing for me. Like, before I even owned the book, I kind of knew where they were going, but once I got into the book, it became super obvious, like, hey guys, we're putting all these things in here because we know you're coming from damn D&D, but roll 2d6, okay?
Right. Or roll 1 if things suck, roll 3 if things are awesome.
Okay, now that we're done with that,
Yeah, yeah.
let's talk about what this is really about.
Right, right.
And it was instantaneous. It was like, it was clear exactly where they were going with it. So that's my point to this, is that if I can't find that easily,
Yeah, yeah.
then I'm never going to enjoy it.
Hulavu says, Rob, you don't know what you're doing with D&D? I think it's obvious. Make as much money as possible.
They failed at that too.
No, you are wrong, Hulavu. The objective is kill God.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which one.
No. It doesn't. And in all honesty, Hulavu, if they wanted to make money, they would have handled licensing way better. They would have handled...
Oh, you mean like in the meta? You think?
Yeah, I think that's what he was
Wizards
doing.
of the Coast.
Wizard
making as
just
much
wanted to
money
make as much money as
possible.
possible.
I thought
get
it was
that.
for the characters in the game to make as much money.
Oh
as
God,
possible.
no! Oh God, no! Like maybe in D&D Original Edition.
Oh, that's funny.
Speaking of Hulu, let's get some questions out.
All right, so
for the
Hulu
master.
asks, how do you discover games you otherwise don't or won't know about?
So there's this podcast.
No, for me, dead serious,
yeah.
Is r/RPG, honestly, is where I've heard of most games that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
It's a very high traffic subreddit on Reddit, and you'll have people asking newbie-ish questions like, I'm looking to run a pirate game. I throw myself on your mercy. What's a good pirate system?
Mm-hmm.
And people will be like, oh, you could run this, you could run this, you could run this, you could run... And, after you surf that subreddit a while, you start picking up trends of, like, this is a game that gets name-dropped a lot in discussions about having this quality, this quality, this quality, and this quality.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should look into that, because those are qualities I like.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of this game before, but I'll look it up, you know?
And with, like, itch.io
Yeah.
and a lot of indie stuff, you get often somebody who's made a game that is in the flavor of something else. So you can kind of... You end up following the threads, if you will, to get into things. I would say, to answer the question pretty much directly, how do you discover games you otherwise don't know about? Stop looking for what you know.
Yeah.
Don't follow the threads of, like, oh, I play D&D, so I'm going to look for other D20 things. Don't. Look for a theme.
Stop it. Scare yourself.
Yeah.
I do this thing at restaurants sometimes that I call having a food adventure.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And that is where I will go to a restaurant I've never been to before, and I will point at something on the menu I can't pronounce, and I say, bring me this.
Yes.
Because it gets me to have a new experience.
Yep.
And I know that's scary for a lot of people because we like to eat our comfort foods and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets you out of your comfort zone, and you may discover a food you did not know you liked before.
Or even just like an extra thing. Like my mother discovered Indian with us and absolutely loves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mediterranean. She can't always have it, and she can't have all of it.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
But there are things that she loves about it, and its way sits outside of what my dad eats.
Right. But that's the thing. Like, throw yourself out of your comfort zone for a while. You know, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to run another Savage Worlds campaign. No, stop it.
Stop it.
I love Savage Worlds. I'm comfortable with Savage Worlds. It's absolutely the style of game that I love to run.
Yeah.
And Rob refuses to let me do it again.
Nope. Not gonna play in that game.
Because I got to try something new.
Yeah.
I got to break out of my shell.
Speaking of which, what are the barriers you come across discovering more interesting systems?
Comfort food. It's just comfort food. You just you get afraid of a system. You get intimidated by the size or scope of a system. Echo chamber. You get into an echo chamber.
Yeah.
I think for me, I get intimidated by systems a lot. I have like really bad executive dysfunction, so like the idea of learning a system and then implementing a system. Also, I get burned on hype trains a lot.
Yeah.
I tend to hyper-focus on things, and then I get super enthusiastic about them, and I go, guys, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Y'all need to get into Warhammer 40k with me.
No.
And everybody goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, probably not. And I go, and then I feel crushing disappointment because
Right.
I got my hopes up, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't like doing that with new systems, you know?
No,
I don't want to be like, oh, Cortex is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I know Violent Menace is just having a party right now, hearing that out of my mouth. But then, you know, if you have a bunch of people go, okay, I don't want to learn a new system right now. Oh, okay, well,
yeah.
Now I'm disappointed again.
Yeah.
So I know people like Savage Worlds. That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that forward, you know?
Right. I think the other part of that you said is the whole concept of learning a new system.
Yeah.
Simplifying it with the right tools often becomes some of the difficulty that you have, is that the indie systems don't always have simplifications to present.
Right.
Because they don't have the time, the budget, the things like that. So that often can be a barrier of just getting entry into your game.
Yeah.
Even though the materials are available online for free.
I'm training someone at work right now. Mm-hmm. And she's getting very overwhelmed learning the position because she's going to be my backup basically when I'm on vacation and whatnot. And I'm like, don't focus on the minutia.
Right.
You know, I said getting a glass of water from the kitchen is a complicated task if you look at it as, okay, so first you're going to need to go to the kitchen. You're going to have to select a glass. There's many different types of sizes of glasses that you can select from. There are glass ones and plastic ones primarily, but there's a few other options in there if you're
ceramic
if you're looking for, right? Now, the glass ones have the advantage of they're strong, they're sturdy, and they keep your beverage cool, but they could also break if you drop them. So be careful about that. Note that that's a quality they have. The plastic ones won't break if you drop them, but they tend to be flimsier and don't keep your beverages cool. Okay. Now that we've talked about glass, you know, etc.,
yeah.
We haven't gotten to the water part of get a glass of water, you know,
Yeah.
and it can seem like it's a really intimidating task, but what we don't realize is that we're doing all of those calculations every time we go and get a glass of water from the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we don't realize it, okay, because we're batching those decisions into grab glass, put ice in glass, optional, fill glass with water, place glass to mouth, and ingest water.
Don't breathe.
Right. Don't breathe. For the love of God, don't breathe it in. This is a mistake I make constantly. Learn from my fail, folks.
Yes.
But, you know, I think if role-playing games were better able to do that, if they were better able to take their complex systems and go, look, all you're really doing is rolling this to see if you hit. If you do, your opponent rolls this to see if they defend. And if they don't, you roll this for damage. Done. That's combat.
Yeah.
You know? It's 3 steps.
Yeah.
Ignore the modifiers, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Okay.
Next week is our
Last show.
5 years. Literally Thursday of that week is our 5-year anniversary.
It is...
That's the physical date.
A long journey, man.
It has. I have some mixed feelings about it, but at the same time, like, I think I need the breath.
Yeah.
I think I need to breathe at the end of that and publish it and just sit back for a few.
Yeah.
And we'll say it again next week. We're not going anywhere. Nothing's going down.
Discord's
We're
still
not
here.
getting rid of the stuff. We're still going to keep it up on YouTube and on the site. Like, everything's going to stay up. We'll have some conversations with those in the Patreon and what's going to happen with the Patreon site. Because obviously, things are shifting there. But realistically, like, there'll be some shift with what we're doing. But we might record something. We might not. We might list a bunch of other stuff out.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes. But next week's show, we're going to reflect on the 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to take some time to talk about episodes specifically, things that we've learned. I think some of the questions, even tonight, I might come back to.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important to answer the questions of what we learned about discovering systems. Because a lot of people like how we did our system teardowns.
Yeah.
Like, what does it take to do that? I think that is a legitimate thing. One of the biggest things that I will say is that we did this podcast originally as just a conversation between the two of us, and then we agreed while doing it that this was for the community. That we're not doing this to be a podcast, to be the podcast or information. We're just another piece of information in the community. We hope that people listen to the podcast and take nuggets from it and do their own content, steal, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, dead honest, yeah.
Get it out there. There's people who don't listen to us, but there's still great ideas that have come out of this. And help and knowledge. I mean, we spent 5 years, week after week, studying crap. I can tell you content creators are barely scratching the surface because they're reiterating the same loops that other people do because they don't have the time. Because they have to create too much content.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel bad for them.
They
So
gotta
please,
feed the algorithm.
come back, look at our stuff, steal from it, enjoy it, observe it, learn from it, expand on it.
Yeah, hop on the Discord and be like, hey guys, I know you haven't been on the air for 6 months, but I just listened to episode 189 and I had a question about something you said there.
Do it.
Absolutely, we're still here.
Keep asking.
We'd love to talk to y'all.
And likewise, you're running a new game. Tell us about it. Tell us how it's working.
Yeah.
Tell us how it's not working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us your horror story that happened so that we can learn from it as a community.
And like Violent Menace, you've got to stick around to learn if we ever dig Cortex out and Brave piecing together our own role-playing system out of it and stuff like that. I swear I'm going to do it someday. I swear.
Honestly, that might not be not a bad recording for us to do one night.
Of hey guys, we did Cortex finally.
Yeah.
It's 6 months down the road. Storyteller Conclave gets just one more episode, and it's finally the Cortex episode 262.
Thank you, Gen X. Yeah,
Yeah.
5 years has been a long time, and it does feel like a really amazing accomplishment. I mean, I will flat out say we have more hours of content than any other content creator right now, either on YouTube or in audio podcasts like Spotify.
Yeah.
Because nobody can keep up with us. Like, they're going to take some time to do this, but literally we beat all of them. We were in, last year's numbers, we were in the top 3% of all content creators in our section. And the only people who are beating us were networks.
Yeah. Sulavu says we should start a Wednesday night campaign. It's been great. Been a great run.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings about that. On one hand, I would love to play in some of your games. If somebody started up a game on the STC server and whatnot, in Ray, that'd be amazing. I would be in for that. On the other hand, though, I think you and I have talked about keeping our Wednesdays as hangout nights because we kind of need the sanity.
Yeah.
This is a bonding thing for both of us as friends.
Yeah.
And we've really come to... We joke about it being our therapy night, but it kind of is. It's dedicated time that both of us have set apart to just spend with our friend. And we've grown so close over...
Let's not do next week's show right now.
Hey, let's end the show now so we have something to talk about next
We love you guys.
I love you guys so much. All right. You almost got a whole other show out of us, but you can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us live at least next week on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And join us up on our Discord. We would love to hear from you there. either toss us some questions for next week, our last show, or just come talk to the other great storytellers that are there. Let us know about your games and whatnot. You can find that link on our Twitter as well as our website, storytellerconclave.com.
Yeah, we've had a lovely number of members who've jumped on in the last couple of weeks, as apparently we've made a lot of impressions in a lot of places. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the chance on our Discord. We love having new people. I really want to appreciate and support our Patreon members who've come and supported us month after month, especially our name members, Knox in the Box, Subjet, The Arcane Asylum, Hulavu, Sam, Sean, and Sparkle Motion. We truly appreciate your support. Our pre-show music is by Arcane Anthems. You can find them on patreon.com or on Instagram at Arcane Anthems. Our intro music is Beyond the Warriors by Geefrog, geefrog.bandcamp.com, or on YouTube Music. And our outro music is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Mid-Air Machine. You can find them at freemusicarchive.org.
And a big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us. All of our friends who've sat with us at our tables over these years who give these great stories to share with you. And you, every single one of our listeners. We seriously mean this.
We love you
all
very much.
Good night.
Good night.